Welcome everyone to our third episode in our series called The Stretch Between the Levels. And if you're here, it means you have gone through our first episode, which was giving us a foundation in terms of what really happens to us when we get a breakthrough and why the stretch. In the second episode, we then understood that we cannot do what we need to do without becoming. And we were then introduced to the 5 concepts around becoming, right? We understand what are the 5 elements that call us up. The person who can be able to walk into this new level. What we're going to do in this third episode is take a deep dive in understanding the first element of that internal ordering. And the reason we're doing this, King's Daughters, is so that we are not found without the language, but also without the tools necessary for any transition that we go through. So today we're talking about identity realignment. Don't let the word fool you. It's nothing hoo-ha. It's nothing out of the ordinary. By the time we are done talking together about what this is, you will fully understand exactly what it is and whether or not you have resisted it or whether or not you have actually experienced it, right? It's one thing to resist it, but if you've experienced it, now you will have the tools to go through it. Without any further ado, let's get right into it. So identity realignment is really about what happens when your external circumstances change faster than your internal self-concept. Can that sink in? Your external circumstances, they move at a faster speed in change than your self-concept is, right? When your assignment expands, but your inner reference point still stands still. I can't stress that enough. Is that you? Your environment treats you as new, but you still experience yourself as former. Many of us are in this. I know this for a fact. Many of us, because it's the beginning of the year, many changes are happening, but those changes are happening outside, whilst inside, we are still regarding ourselves as former. So what is it? In simple terms, identity realignment is a process of updating your inner identity to match the truth of where you now are. I want to say, and yeah, I paused there and wanted to say, give a round of applause or something like that, because that is the truth, King's Daughters. Many of us are in the process of updating our inner identity so that we can match our external circumstances. You're not becoming someone else. No. You are becoming congruent. That's the word. You are becoming one. Because your circumstances changes so fast, the follow-up or the way your identity needs to catch up doesn't need to be fast, but it just needs to be aligned, right? Now, before we move on, can we talk about what triggers this identity realignment? The last few episodes, if you have not been, please go ahead and watch those. Here we're going to talk about what would really be triggering, and I've referred to this as I began, but I want to actually explicitly name them, right? So identity realignment is usually triggered by transition, period. And that's what we're talking about here, right? Whether it's a new role that you get, whether it's a new level of visibility that you get, a new responsibility, relationship status, a new platform or authority, all these things externally, they shift. And the internal question that arises is, who am I now really? And that's a good question. It's a good question because I don't want you to run away from that question. Many of us do. Things have changed on the outside, but you are still the same in the inside. But the question, the nagging question is, who am I now? Right? That question is not insecurity, King's daughters. It is part of formation. And I'm all about formation. There's something I'm busy working on that talks about a post-wilderness formation. I cannot wait to share more about it with you. But I want you to understand that you are in the process of formation. Those questions should never make you run away. Those questions should always make you lean in. But what does identity misalignment look like, right? Because it's one thing for us to understand what is it, what triggers it, but what is misalignment? What does it look like? So misalignment really of identity happens when you have not yet realigned your experiences, right? This happens when imposter syndrome, many of us idolize the concept, I truly don't. And maybe let me throw in my 2 cents here. And because maybe it's because I understood what I understand about growth and advancement, that it is truly a identity realignment. I just did not have this language then. However, I understood that for me, when I feel a gap or I feel a discomfort when I enter a room, it is truly an invitation to a higher me. It's somebody saying, hi, advocate, you have actually progressed to the next level. Feel comfortable. This is home. I never shrink back. God forbid. I can never. And that is why I don't really subscribe to the whole phenomenon about imposter syndrome. But anyway, let us move on. Let's not get distracted. Let's not digress. Identity is misaligned when we shrink and overcompensate. And many women do this. And that's why, child of God, I'm sitting here trying to get to your heart to let you understand what exactly is happening. How to catch yourself in the middle of it when it does happen. Because now that you have the language, you'll be able to catch it and say, we don't shrink here. We don't do that, right? Anxiety in spaces we prayed for. I mean, really? Do you know how many people break down for the roles they asked for the environment that they asked for? And they don't understand that exactly what is happening in the moment is truly an identity realignment. You are just misaligned, and once you can align, all is well. The room is yours. The check is yours. The marriage is yours. The job is yours. You don't need to worry, right? Confusion after achievement. I've heard many people talk about how they feel about this, and feelings are just exposed instead of being established in the moment. That's when you must say, you must understand, not say, you must understand that you are misaligned, right? Because you will hear people often say, or maybe even yourself, you will hear yourself say, I don't feel ready. This doesn't feel like me. Why do I feel unsettled when I got exactly what I wanted? Nothing is wrong with you, King's daughter. The inner identity is just lagging behind your reality, right? Now, what does it involve? I don't want to pause this very quickly because I want to bring our example here. Remember, we have a working example in every episode, and this working example is the contract that your girl here got. And I can take you to a journal where the Lord spoke to me about train the trainer. In 2017, He downloaded exactly what it's going to look like. However, at the moment, at the point of me, 2025, having to execute on exactly what I saw and what I heard, something inside of me was saying no. Right? Something inside of me. That means that my identity had not caught up with my existence. It was now happening. The Lord was now instructing that, Miliswa, it's time. Roll out what we spoke about. Instead of getting excited and saying, oh wow, it's happening, questions were swirling around my head. Why now, Lord? Oh no, do you think I'm ready? And. All those questions were important for me because they were forming me. They were not showing weakness. They were not showing that something is wrong with me. They were in fact inviting me to actually be the person who runs the train the trainer. Not only just run it, design the train the trainer, because it was time, right? But anyway, that's our story. Keep that in the back of your head, King's daughter, should you experience anything of that sort. What identity realignment actually involves, it's not positive thinking, and I don't even want you to go there. It is a reordering of 5 internal layers. Are you with me? I hope you're taking notes, King's daughters, because here we are at school. We want, when this year ends, we have got not just notes to show, but we've got slips, receipts that shows that we have passed this thing, right? Self-definition, letting go of who you were good at being, right? I mean, I was good at implementing because I implemented for so long. So when the Lord asked me to move into another role, in a more strategic role, I hyperventilated because now who do I say I am, right? Allowing a new self-understanding to form. This is very critical. And the thing about this is that it happens so quickly. Not quickly, subtly. It doesn't make noise. It does not. The feeling of insecurity, the feeling of anxiety creeps in very quickly. You need to be very self-aware for you to stop it and say, no, not here, not now. This is not what we're doing. This is what we prayed for. Therefore, we are walking into it, right? We have to have a narrative update. We have to have an internal story change. This was very critical for me. And I thank the Lord that, I hope I'm not running ahead of myself here. I thank the Lord that at the point of the conflict, once He revealed to me, I'm one person, child of God, who, when the Lord reveals something to me, pen to paper, I put it down. I note it down, whether it turns into a book, whether it turns into a post, whether it turns into a message to somebody, because I want my mind, my body, and my soul to make an internal recognition that, hey, we just got information that we did not have. Therefore, we are elevating, right? So it's important for me that I write or I document, I do some sort of something, right? So we're having this narrative update. We have this belonging recalibration, because if we don't do this, right, we will run ahead whilst our identity lags behind, and that's very, very dangerous, right? We embody. It's called embodiment. I don't know what the word is. Your body, your emotions, and your behavior, they finally catch up to the truth. And this was true for me. And I hope that you will be able to identify for yourself. But the question then might be, you might be sitting there and asking yourself, but why does identity realignment have to come before doing? And the answer is very, very simple, but it's very critical for you to catch it, child of God. If identity does not realign, you will end up being more performative. If you've seen someone who's always performing, you must understand they have not yet understood who they are. And here when I say performing, maybe you won't understand what example can I come up with here. So for example, if you are given a role at work and you know very well that you can do the job, but you still feel unsure and uncertain, then you start showing up everywhere, you start doing things, you literally performing instead of being the manager that you are called to be, the CEO, whatever the role is. What happens when your identity doesn't realign also is that your effort become exhausting. Have you heard of people who are always complaining about being exhausted? Is because their lived experience does not align with their identity as of yet. Therefore, they are always on some hustle and always on some, doing the next thing. Guard against this, King's daughters, because now that you know, you'll be able to spot it in its head, right? Another point I can say here is that when your identity doesn't align, success for you feels fragile. Now, many people have a definition of what success is for them. For me, and this I have worked out for myself, and I guess you need to work out for yourself. Success for me is obedience. What is it that God told me to do? And have I done it? It might be small, it might be big, it might be so minute that no one will even see it. But for me, trust you me, I rest in that because I have done exactly what the Master has ordered me to do. It's not in the things. The things will come. Trust you me, I can tell you multiple stories in terms of how the Lord is restoring. But for me, that does not equate success. Success is when He tells me, Miliswa, sit down, write that book. And I sit down and I write the book. That I've been successful. I can go and meet the president, I can meet the richest person, I can have Ferraris, I can have whatever. That means nothing to me if God is not the author of those things. Now, if He does tell me to go and meet the president, and I do obey and go and meet the president, of course that's success, right? So I think we need to get to a point where we define success for ourselves, not according to the world standards, but according to what the Lord calls of us, right? What happens here also, which is the last point, is that pressure feels very personal. What I mean with this is that it's the hustle thing again. You are taking everything as if it's all on you. One thing that the Lord has taught me, I know I'm not doing it so well, right? But I am doing it, and that is making sure that I understand that there's a difference between what I do and what the Lord does, right? Because if I take everything as if it's me who's supposed to do it, I'll get tired. I will get exhausted. Because guess what? I'm human. I don't have what God has, right? So it's very important for me to always remember you're human in this relationship. And God knows it, right? So whatever it is that He entrusts me to do, I know that He capacitates me to do it. If I'm not capacitated to do it, it means it's not a Miliswa thing to do. It's a God thing to do. And you know what I mean. I don't mean that you don't do anything because you don't feel capable or whatever. But I just mean that between me and God, He does the heavy lifting. Because He's my Father at the end of the day, right? People can do new things, but I realize that many of them cannot carry them. And this is what I don't want for us in 2026, truly. Identity tells effort where to land. just like I explained. And I think for me here, it is important to bring you into a conversation of how I internalized identity way back. In 2014, I'm saying so many years. In 2014, April, the Lord says to me, I am busy taking a bath. He says to me, drop low. I hyperventilated. Actually, he said drop advocate, right? So in front of my name, you'd know that there is the abbreviation advocate. I'm like, Lord, who am I going to say that I am? What's going to happen to me? And as gentle as he can be in my spirit, he says, you are the king's daughter. I'm like, what? What is the king's daughter? What do you mean the king's daughter? What does a king's daughter even do? But at that point, what I did not know that the Lord was doing for me was that he was giving me a new identity. I had wrapped around my identity around what I did. Whether you met me anywhere, I will make sure that you introduce me correctly. I will make sure that you know that I went to school and I have the title in front of my name. But I think I've done videos about this also in the past. So if you've never heard it, you can go back and listen to what I explained there. I even think that the latest book actually has this story, right? But anyway, the reason I'm talking about identity with this one was that, in fact, in 2014, he was gracing me with the ability to understand who I am to him and how I am supposed to engage with the world. I am not just any girl. I am the king's daughter. What that looks like, that's why those that know, I don't like being called a queen. I'm not a queen. I don't know what God said to those that call themselves queen. I've got nothing against it. However, I just don't reference myself as a queen because I am a princess. I'm the king's daughter. I have a king for a father, and that is my identity. And that, though I did not understand to a whole degree, protected me in so many ways. Without even the understanding, in 2015, I actually started a group which still exists to this day called the King's Daughter Group. And I was living what I had not fully come alive to. But out of obedience to the Lord, I had said, yes, call me that, identify me as that. Now, the realignment for me happened when I fully understood that I am not just a lawyer. I am not just a mother. I am who God says I am. So my identity, whether you give me a role as a cleaner, whether you give me a role as a street sweeper, one thing that's clear for me is that I am royalty, whether or not I have what people think I need to have. That is why for 10 full years, the Lord took me through a process, and that process to many people undermined who they thought I should be. But I had a very clear identity. I knew whose I am. I knew who I am. Therefore, it did not shake me at all, right? Now, I want us to get now to the end of our conversation around this identity realignment. But one thing I want you to know is that without identity realignment, the next level becomes a threat instead of a gift. Many of us are feeling threatened by what is supposed to be a blessing to us because we have not aligned, right? So it often feels like, it doesn't feel like disorientation, quiet grief, unfamiliarity with self, slowing down. All these things are not regression, right? It is an internal reconstruction. So identity realignment is the process of updating who you understand yourself to be so that your inner life can support the level you are stepping into. And this is important. King's Daughters, for us to fully embrace and understand. And I hope in our conversation you were able to take for yourself the very things that you need for your next level. And you were able to embrace who the Lord says you are so that you can move up to the next level. Can I ask you a question? Have you challenged how you're feeling in relation to who you are? Have you challenged the anxiety? Have you challenged the self-sabotage that happens because you now understand and you are aligned to who you are? Don't answer me right now. You can take your time, go journal and get alone with yourself. But it is important for us to answer that. And thank you so much for stretching with me and sticking until the end. I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Next episode, actually.